Welcome to Proper Concern for Truth. I'm your host, Seth L.S. Today's conversation, Tucker Carlson at night. Tucker Carlson is a Fox News Network personality who has his own show, Tucker Carlson at Night. On a recent episode, host Tucker interviews anti-fascist Trump leader Sunsara Taylor, and then gives up on the interview after trying to make it through a series of questions because Sunsara had become extremely irate and was not answering the interview questions. But why did this happen? So the value of having a conversation about a specific issue with differing and dissenting views, in particular political issues, is priceless. Oftentimes, Tucker Carlson interviews guests on his show who have views that do not necessarily align with his own. But he gives them a platform with the angle that he gets to hear the opposing side's argument, their case. So we're going to break down a Tucker Carlson interview and then discuss some techniques Tucker Carlson uses on many of his guests he disagrees with. Now, to be fair, Tucker oftentimes asks reasonable questions, but also many times he twists the words of his guests and asks them why they would say things they didn't say, the words he twisted. And it's a dangerous thing to do. Here's an example. Ed Henry, who fills in for Tucker Carlson from time to time, filled in the last week of 2016 for Tucker. Ed goes ahead and uses a play right out of Tucker's playbook, and that is either changing the syntax or diction, or both. So Ed Henry is interviewing Eric Guster, he's a lawyer and legal analyst, about a speech Barack Obama made where President Obama was saying Democrats and progressives need to break through what is a complicated history in the South and win back Southern white voters without compromising diversity and civil rights. And Ed Henry charges that President Obama was saying all Southern white voters are racist and Democrats can't win their votes without compromising civil rights. So here's the clip. It's about 2.5 minutes long. Take a listen.
Here's exactly what the president said.
Part of the challenge for Democrats and progressives generally is that if we cannot compete in rural areas, in rural states, if we can't find some way to break through what is a complicated history in the South and start winning races there and winning back Southern white voters without betraying our commitment to civil rights and diversity. If we can't do those things, then we can win elections.
Democratic strategist Eric Guster joins us live right now. Good to see you, Eric. I want to stipulate up front, the president's absolutely right about one point, that we have a complicated history in the South, and we have to be honest and straightforward about that. However, in explaining why Donald Trump won, why does he have to inject race?
Well, race was an issue in this election. Donald Trump was supported by the alt-right, which is the white supremacist right group, which thoroughly supported Trump, who actually came out, many of them came out and said today that if they will rebel against Trump if he does not hold to his values according to them.
You can point to some voters who felt that way, but what President Obama was saying, Eric, was basically all Southern white voters that we can't win them over, he says, as Democrats unless we compromise on diversity and civil rights. It sounds to me like he's saying they're racist. We can't win unless we give in on civil rights.
And he did not say that, and you know he didn't say that. President Obama said that we have to talk to the Southern white voters, which I'm in Birmingham, Alabama today, so I know about Southern voters. This state has been red for so long that in order for the Democrats to win the South, they have to come into the South, talk about the issues that many voters, especially white voters, want them to discuss, and then try to infiltrate their loyalties to the GOP. The president did not state that all white voters were racist. He did not state that all white voters were voting just because Donald Trump believed in certain things. So that's not actually true.
But he said we can't win over these Southern white voters without compromising on civil rights and diversity. How else can you read that?
No, the president said that we have to win them over, but we can't compromise on civil rights and diversity.
That's what I said.
Because that is a divisive issue with some people, where they don't want you to talk about affirmative action issues. They don't want to talk about diversity in the workplace, but they still want their votes.
Okay.
So this is a very complicated issue that the president actually addressed, and I wish that Donald Trump would come out and address those issues, which he refused to do.
Okay, we didn't hear from Donald Trump today, but we did hear from another Republican, Mike Huckabee. He was on Fox and Friends with me and Brian.
Okay, so this is pretty interesting what Ed does here. Ed Reed changes the syntax and says President Obama said Democrats can't win over Southern white voters without compromising civil rights. Then Eric Guster immediately corrects him and says no. President Obama said Democrats need to win over Southern white voters and they can't compromise civil rights. And then ridiculously, Ed Henry said that's just what he said. This is really disingenuous to stoop that low, to make it so wordy that unless you are intensely analyzing every sentence, you would not notice the extreme difference. Another thing Tucker Carlson does on his show is whenever someone is making a point he disagrees with, he laughs at the guest to undermine or not take serious or delegitimize their point. One of the biggest problems the guests have who disagree with Tucker are they themselves. Many of these people are so passionate about their cause, when Tucker laughs at them, they become so emotionally reactive, what Bill Maher calls taking the bait, liberals taking the bait, that the logic side of their argument becomes lost in their emotional outburst. For example, recently, Tucker interviewed Sincera Taylor. Tucker got her so riled up, he had to abandon the interview because she was not in an emotional state stable enough to give an articulate and comprehensive answers to interview questions. Another big problem for some of the guests is they simply do not fully understand or know intimately the issues on which they are speaking. For example, a few weeks ago, Tucker Carlson interviewed Cameron Whitten, who was a protest organizer. He was being interviewed on the Foreign Entry Order, or Muslim ban. Tucker asked if he could name the 7 countries affected by the ban. Mr. Whitten could only name 2, Iran and Iraq. The other 5 were Sudan, Somalia, Syria, Libya, and Yemen. It is not enough to simply be on the right side of a cause or conversation, but you must also know and be able to articulate why it is the right side. As always, America, we the citizens are the true but dormant and slumberful power holders. Wake up your power, America. Use your voice, your vote, and let's elect officials who best represent our interests.